Is that how that works?
That's how it works.
All right. So I think your microphone is there.
Hello.
Get up a little
Oh,
closer.
he's a grower.
He is a grower. You are.
He's a grower. He's a shower.
Oh,
He's a new leaf blower.
I don't know what the fuck that is. Uh, we're gonna ride with it.
You don't know that melody?
No, I'm a joker.
I'm a smoker. I'm a midnight toker.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Right,
it's
so
a
that's enough
classic.
of that.
It's a classic song.
It's a classic song.
Yeah, speaking
All
of
right.
classics,
Classics.
classic monster.
Classic
The
monsters. And
classic, the classicest of the monsters.
I was gonna say it does not get more classic than Godzilla.
And Godzilla.
What are we here to talk about, friend?
We are here to talk about my new favorite ever convention in naming prequels and remakes, Godzilla minus one. I want so many more movies to adopt that way of naming the number it is in a series.
I mean, I guess.
I think it's lovely.
Do you know what the name stands for?
No.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about the new Godzilla movie, which is
A joy.
it's actually really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Um, so this is a brand new Toho produced movie. It does not like have anything to do with uh,
The King Kong
legendary,
Monsterverse,
yeah, the legendary movies.
which is fine.
It's fine.
It's very fine, actually.
We will discuss about the idea of like you can have your thought-provoking Godzilla movies,
Yeah.
and then you can have your big dumb monkey movie.
Your big lizard monkey smash face.
Hell yeah, dude. So this new Godzilla movie, it's kind of like in the vein of the original. It takes place right after the war. I never saw Shin Godzilla, which was
Neither
the
did
one that
I.
came out in 2016.
And I didn't realize it was that long ago that came out.
I remember hearing a lot about it, but I never really cared to see it.
Yeah.
And I did hear from a lot of people that it was good and that like people really liked it, but I never really wanted to see it. So I don't know if it also takes place like right after the war
Yeah.
or if this is if it's a more modern. So I'm trying to figure out like kind of what that is all about. But I do like the fact that this movie is a throwback to like this is your atomic bomb like allegory.
Yeah.
Like yeah, you can say that like the new Godzilla movie still has that like
But it's not as present in our world. So, like.
it's also not what that movie is going for.
Right.
Like those movies are all it's not that's not the point.
I took this less of an atomic bomb allegory and more as an allegory of like violence and destruction.
Okay.
But like the atomic bomb is certainly more present. However, like I don't think the other Godzilla movies by Legendary are really interested in the concept of allegory at all.
No,
Which
those
is not a
are
knock. Which is not a knock against them.
yeah, they're very much like your this is like we're having fun.
Yes.
And that's fine.
Yes.
Um
King Kong is a Godzilla charged battle axe.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So this movie takes place right after the war. Japan is at zero, their lowest point. And then here comes this giant fucking lizard and brings them down a peg
to
minus one.
Wow, very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
And that's our like basic synopsis. Synapsis. Right? Why am I feeling like that doesn't sound right?
Because you're adopting a Bostonian accent. Synopsis.
Sure. Man, that Thanksgiving fucked me up.
Yep.
This is probably as far as like all the Japanese Godzilla movies I've seen, which if I'm being honest, is probably too many. Because that was all playing down in Mexico all the fucking time. Like you could not go anywhere without seeing
the
Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
And I always thought they were campy and they were cheesy and they were fun. Like when there's that famous gif of Godzilla like
riding on his tail.
Yeah. And I remember like those movies were so much fucking fun.
Right.
but I never really understood like the seriousness of like what Godzilla actually was because I was a fucking kid.
I was happy to see asshole Godzilla again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like, and don't get me wrong, I love having Godzilla be a good guy.
I love rooting for
Like,
Godzilla.
I exactly, and like there
Yeah.
were times in this movie where I'm like, yeah, Godzilla, fuck shit up.
Yeah,
But this is a movie where you're watching Godzilla legitimately destroy people's
he
lives.
is the antagonist.
He is the asshole.
Yeah.
He is not a good guy. He is not like a force of balance like he is
Nope.
in like the newer
Yeah.
interpretations, right? Um, he is here to bring these people down a peg.
Yeah.
And I do like that the movie kind of addresses that in that way, where like they so the movie what I like about it is it it does have like a military perspective because our main character is, he's a
Former
kamikaze
kamikaze pilot.
fighter,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so you are going to have part of it that is, probably for them it's kind of like fuck yeah, Japan, right?
Right.
But at the same time, the movie does not shy away from the fact that like the government
Fucked up.
kind of fucked up. The government failed them, and now the people are like your common man is, left to fend for themselves.
Which is fascinating for me watching this as an American because, like, when you think about all the education, at least I got about World War II,
Hmm.
like, the whole idea was like the Japanese are a very collectivist society. Like, they were prepared to like fight to the death to the last man, right? Like, we had to drop the bomb because
Yeah,
otherwise the war would go on like 10 more years, and like they would like fight us from their houses and stuff. And that's not the story the movie tells. Like, yes, like our I want to pronounce the name right, Shikishima, right? Our main protagonist,
Koichi.
Koichi. Like, yes, he gets shamed for not like going through his like kamikaze attack, but like,
At the same time, dude.
yeah, but there's plenty of people who are like, yeah, fuck the government. Like, one of my favorite lines in this movie. Like, you should count yourself lucky that you never had to like. I'm butchering
Oh yeah, the
like,
guy's like you shouldn't be proud of not.
or
You should be
you
proud
should
of
be
not
proud of
going.
never going to. You should be
Yeah.
proud of never going to war, right? Which is like, it just shows the importance of having multiple voices telling stories, because that is not what you are taught in like American schools about Japan,
It
right?
reminds me of that joke from Chris Rock where he's like, "I ain't never been to jail." He's like, "But you want a cookie?" Like you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to go to war. You're not supposed to go out and kill
Yeah,
other people for shits and giggles. Like it's not something to be proud of.
correct.
It's I don't want to even say it's a necessary thing. I mean, to a certain extent, I guess it is, but it shouldn't be something that you're actively seeking, which that character kind of feels like he is.
We just had, I mean, Veterans Day was a few weeks ago,
Hmm.
right? We had a big Veterans Day presentation in my school. It was very nice, right? But it was like very rah veterans, right?
Rah,
And I was like, I kind of like,
rah.
hoorah. I was like, I kind of like how this movie is taking a big old shit on Veterans Day. It's not that like, it- it's not that I want to like actively dishonor the veterans, but I feel that like all too often, like we just like neglect to realize that like war sucks and like is awful, and like because we see things through a very American lens, like,
Mm.
we're willing to like pigeonhole people into stereotypes. And I love how unapologetic this movie was about like, fuck the government, right? Like, fuck the war, right? We're gonna be
And
civilians.
and even
And
even one of the characters
yeah.
that gives Koichi a lot of shit later in the movie, like very early on. Tachibana is the guy.
Mhm.
He's a mechanic. He does tell him he's like you shouldn't just like have to follow these bullshit orders a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Uh, which is kind of a theme
Yeah.
in the movie, right?
Spoiler alert, he
Uh,
gives him the ejector seat.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So let's get into like the just basic things. I do think this is probably the scariest Godzilla we've had in a very long time.
He's so gangly at the beginning. It's terrifying.
In that first scene, I remember watching it. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, he's tiny."
And I hadn't really seen trailers for this movie, so I was like, okay, I'm kind of down to have,
A small
a
Godzilla.
T-Rex sized Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then that's not what happens, which is fine.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I had seen trailers, so I was like, oh, he's going to get big. How he going to get big?
yeah, but it was cool to
Um,
see how like he was all contorted and
yeah,
like
and
like a
that'll
monster.
yeah, I really like that opening scene. I think as far as like the human dynamic, which we've talked about how in these monster movies you have to have
Humans.
humans, right? People are overall very dumb,
Yeah,
and if they don't see a human in the screen,
hard to
it's
empathize.
hard for them to empathize. They're just
Right.
not very good at that, and so you have to. But I think this movie does like the human element very well.
It's getting universally praised for that.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we're saying anything no one else has said.
Yeah.
But I do think that this movie does a good job at balancing like the characters and like the excitement too. Because like
Yes.
it's not just like a human drama with
Correct.
monster stuff.
There's some solid monster stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the I really like the dynamic between the main character
Yeah.
and his quote unquote like pseudo love interest, pseudo
Yeah.
roommate.
Co-parenting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I thought was was a weird dynamic, but I was like, I mean, what else are you supposed to do when your village exploded?
Love perseveres. This movie does Thor: Love and Thunder better than Thor: Love and Thunder.
And it also does like the whole like human spirit, like
Yeah.
will to fight
Yeah. Very well.
very well.
Very well.
I do like that the main female like love interest, her name is Noriko.
Hmm.
I like that she's not like they don't paint her as like the nagging bitch wife.
No.
She's kind of silly. Like at the beginning when you're first introduced to her, she's very goofy but
Yeah. She just
kind of
drops a
fun.
baby and goes, "You talk."
Drops a baby on him.
Yeah.
I do like all the side characters as well. I know that Japanese acting can be very like off-putting to a lot of people because they're very like
Yeah. I'm still not used to like. I'm someone who pretty much exclusively watches Western
yeah,
media.
because Thanos not a real ally yet.
There you go.
We'll get him there.
Um, like there were definitely many moments where I was like, this is very
Where it
Japanese.
feels very like
Yeah.
overacted, like
Yep.
overly emotional,
Yeah.
very dramatic, and that's I mean that's all part of the culture, part of the like the art style.
Would you say there's more exposition through dialogue in some Japanese media? Or would you say that was just a product of like this movie had a $15 million budget? Like there's some scenes that they're just gonna like explain.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
honestly it's that. And well, oh, I have so many words
Yeah.
to say about budget on this. So let's get into it. I like this a lot. I suggest if you like any Godzilla and monster stuff, this is like a great introduction to like monsterverse stuff.
I would love to teach them novel Frankenstein, and then I would love to like show a class this movie because I think this plays with the monster trope like very well. Like you could pair this with a lot of like it's interesting. The in one of the podcasts I'm listening to is talking about like dragons in the Bible and like that theme. And I'm
There's
like,
dragons in the Bible.
it's yes, but it's a you got to know the Hebrew, you got to know the Greek. Anyway, but like, but but
I have so many
yeah,
questions.
yeah. But I'm like, oh, this like fucking fits really well with that. Like this movie is well, let me back up. I know we said we can have our cake and eat it too, or we can have our like, this Godzilla, and then we can also have like our long stick
Bonk
Godzilla.
stick.
I think this is where if there's an argument for that, like some art is classic and some art is really good, but it's not classic, and there is a difference between the two. I would say like this movie is evidence for that. Where I love my Godzilla versus King Kong, I'm like, damn, this movie made me think. Like on the way home, and now,
There's a lot of it in
yeah,
this movie that just like the more you think about it, the more you're like, man, this is like it's a really well thought out movie,
yeah,
and then it's also a really well executed movie.
yes.
So let's get into the details.
The
The
details, the
details.
details.
So like you mentioned, like the beginning of the movie, like we get our first glimpse of Godzilla, and I like the setup of he's just like sitting at the beach and he sees these weird dead fish.
Yeah,
And so then that becomes like a sign of like shit's coming.
he's nearby.
And that kind of goes along with the like with what happened during World War II,
Yeah,
which is like they just drop pamphlets saying, we're gonna fuck you up.
yeah,
You don't know where, you don't know when,
but like
but something's coming,
it's
and
coming.
people are like, okay.
Yeah.
what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice like parallel. And does this make Koichi a successful kamikaze fighter or a failed kamikaze fighter? Because like typically speaking, you're supposed to like,
Allahu Akbar. Sorry.
but at the same time,
Yeah.
like he's alive.
Yeah.
So
No, I think he rejects. I think he rejects the role of kamikaze fighter.
which is good.
Yeah.
I do think that like that is a like an idea that is not uncommon to have like your soldier who deserts their post,
Right.
right? We just saw that in The Creator. Like that's probably the most recent example that I can think of, but it's not an uncommon trope in cinema.
No, not at all.
But I do think that the effects that has on him is displayed very well.
Ironically, very American, right?
The whole PTSD.
No, but the whole like I'm going to be the individual. Like I know the collective wants me to do X, Y, and Z,
Oh, fair.
but like I know what's better, even though it's hard, and I'm going to do what I want to do. Right?
Hmm.
Like back to my original point. Like this is not the narrative that we're told about the Japanese, and like it's cool to see that emerge from
Hmm.
Japanese art.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's also like the idea that you don't really watch a lot of Japanese stuff.
No,
So like I see this
all the time.
more
You see it all the
in
time.
a lot
Yeah.
of like like in some things that I've read or
Yeah.
some things that I've watched. So to me, I'm like, yeah, it checks out.
Yeah.
But when he kind of goes against the military, he's you know not automatically seen like as a pariah.
Hmm.
Like he's not outcast yet. But like it's not until after he like betrays these people by not or not betrays, but like
Well, he doesn't shoot Godzilla.
he doesn't shoot Godzilla at the beginning. Which by the way, I don't think would have done anything.
Well, I took it as it's funny. They're like a 30, what is it, 30 millimeter? Is that
A
what it was?
fucking 20
They're
millimeter.
like a 20 millimeter can kill anything. Like that's what they said. And then I'm not a gun expert, but I was like, oh, like I have modern day knowledge that would suggest otherwise. But I took it as like another it was a callback to his rejection of his kamikaze role. Like he rejects violence. Like he won't crash the plane into the ship or wherever you're supposed to crash it. He won't shoot the big beast
It
because like
will
he knows it's going to cause more problems.
potentially,
Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, it's also like you're seeing this giant lizard
yeah,
like staring at you, just wrecking shit.
yeah.
Like you're probably not going to do anything.
He chooses his own life, and like and I think he probably also realizes that like the 20 millimeter cannot solve all the problems.
Yeah. That's the last that we see of Godzilla for a hot minute.
Yeah,
We do get like a brief shot of the testing happening at Bikini Atoll,
yeah.
which is where they create Bikini Bottom.
SpongeBob.
Oh
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
And I don't remember if in the original Godzilla it's just the same where like there is never a bomb dropped on
Mm,
them. It is Godzilla. Godzilla is the bomb.
here's the bomb.
Which, by the way, again, we've discussed this briefly. A lot of people just don't seem to understand that that theme,
Mm,
which is like, you know, atomic bomb's bad.
atomic bomb's bad. Yeah,
Godzilla is the atomic bomb.
yeah.
Um, so the idea that he kind of goes away and he has this like survivor's guilt, I think is played very well.
Hmm.
Again, it's overly it's exaggerated, like the emotions like overly emotional. The way he like
We have to think of the circumstance. He's also living in like it's in firebombed Tokyo,
oh
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like the way it's filmed, like it's not common to how we portray
Uh
this in our media, right?
yeah.
But I think it does a great job at like putting you in this situation where you're like, this dude is he's not holding it together.
Nope.
Uh, Noriko is the one essentially like holding it together. He's doing is going and getting money
Yeah.
to keep them afloat.
Afloat.
But she's the one who's like emotionally
The more
okay.
stable one.
Yeah.
It is cool though that in order to like as a mechanism to keep himself together, he has to like give his life for the life of others. I don't mean that in terms of like he has to like die, but he has to like, you know, I want to keep myself together. I have to help my co-parent,
Yeah.
like this child, right?
And there's got to be something also about like the choice of having him be a tugboat operator
Yeah,
for this like minesweeper job,
yeah,
which is really funny because he's like, yeah, this is gonna be the safest shit ever.
yep.
And the comedy in this sometimes
It's
is subtle,
right.
but I think it also hits very well because that transition from safest thing
And you
ever,
see that fucking boat
just dingy ass
is,
wooden raft
but
at
the
best.
wood is what made it safe.
It is what made it safe because then you
Yeah.
say like, oh, the Americans had these magnetic mines.
USA, baby. I was never prouder of my country than in that moment. How ingenious! How ingenious!
It's so smart, and
Yeah,
I was like, are those real?
yeah.
Crazy.
That's why we're at 2-0 in World Wars.
Fair.
Mhm.
Um, but this is where we get our first like look at Big Godzilla,
Yeah.
and I think it was very smart having Little Godzilla at the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
so that you have a comparison of like
Oh,
just how big
big
this
he
thing is.
is.
Because like when you see him, you only see his head, and he's like laying. I've
It's
always
derpy.
it is very
It's
derpy.
derpy. Yeah.
So the look itself is very derpy,
Yeah.
but the scale of this thing
It's big.
is big chunk.
And I think this is where, like you said, well, maybe for a different reason than what you were going to say, where it helps to have little Godzilla before. If the derpy Godzilla was the first Godzilla I saw, I don't know how seriously I could take it. But because I saw like scary, gangly ass Godzilla, I'm like, oh, like y'all need to y'all need to be the fuck careful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because you see
yeah,
him like he's fast.
yeah.
Like not he's not like sprinting with his monkey friend
Right,
down the CGI screen,
right.
but he is like moving around and like he's able to turn pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so when he's out in the water, like he doesn't seem to be moving super fast, so like it can be a little less scary, but it's the size
Yeah.
of him. And I like that they're using those mines against him to
Yes.
try to see if they can take him down. Um, and this is where we also like have the crew, which is like some random guy who like operates the boat. Then we
Yeah.
have like the kid who's like super into like I want to go to war,
Yeah.
and then
He was too young to
yeah
fight
the
war.
doctor.
You know,
Oh, I really like the doctor.
not as a fun character. He gets more fun as the movie goes along.
Yeah, for sure, he gets to have some fun in this movie. But we do see them finally like do some damage to Godzilla,
Hmm.
which then shows us like he just regenerates, and that I
What
thought was kind of like a.
has that always happened?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
he regenerated fast.
Very fast, like
Yeah,
scary. Because I remember watching, I was like, "Oh, this is a
yeah,
problem."
yeah.
And that I think makes Godzilla scarier. Um, I don't know that I love them using the atomic breath
Right
like
away.
right away because, like, yeah, it's cool that he blows up the ship, but like you're blowing up a ship in the middle of the ocean, it doesn't seem as like
Yeah.
impactful as like the later scene where he uses it in the city.
So is the third time that he uses it? Is that the time or where is the third time that he attempts to use it? Is that the time where they sink him?
Yes.
So then I think maybe that was rule of threes. I At first I was like, oh, they're showing this kind of early because I had heard the hype about the atomic breath, and it was really cool to see like the spikes, like
Yeah, that is really
right.
cool. That's a great visual.
So, and then I would also say that like this is the most nuclear I feel like I've seen. Like like having seen Oppenheimer this year, like that atomic breath and its aftermath looked like a nuclear
And
explosion.
it was scary.
Yeah.
And I like that they showed the I don't know if the backdraft is really like the proper term for it,
Hmm.
but like when you have a nuclear explosion, like it pushes all that air out
Yep.
and then it has to fill that shit back in.
Yeah.
And so they always show like things getting blown away,
Right.
but they never really show like just how much more damage,
Just
everything just getting
the
sucked back into the
the
middle.
wind. Yeah.
And that scene, I would say, was very effective in showing just how devastating
Right.
like that was.
Yeah.
Um, but apparently not too devastating.
No.
Because,
No.
um,
which
They
is shenanigans.
shenanigans.
That I will excuse, but shenanigans.
We excuse it because it's a good movie.
Yeah.
If it was a lesser movie, I think you'd be like, "This is fucking bullshit.
And
I don't like it."
and thematically it works. But
Yes.
like it
Uh,
is pure shenanigans.
yeah. So they after this attack, the government refuses to let the people know like
Are we on the boat or are we
this.
on Ginza?
So this is before Ginza.
Before Ginza,
So
yeah.
after the boat,
Yeah.
this is where Noriko's like, "What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what has you so shaken up?" And you turn and you go, "Yeah, it's a big fucking lizard,
That's a dinosaur. Excuse
big
me.
fucking dinosaur."
But,
But he tells her,
yeah.
and that's why I like this dynamic where like he does trust her, and you can tell that like he does want to be with her because she's cute, she's a good person,
Mhm.
and they seem to work well, but he does feel like he doesn't. He feels like he's on borrowed time. I think.
I could see the universe where they continue to be just co-parents.
Yeah.
And there would be nothing wrong with that. Like I feel like they would both be happy. Um I don't know. I think I read it as he was more so less so that he was in love with Noriko.
Hmm.
I read it as he was just more so happy to be able to share his life with somebody.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so he does tell her. But they do make a point of saying like, why are we not telling people like
About
maybe you should evacuate?
the giant fucking dinosaur.
There's a giant fucking dinosaur coming, and they're like, I don't know, the fucking government doesn't want people to like panic. Like
Right.
nobody wants to be responsible for like the damage that would happen when people are freaking out and like
Yeah.
evacuating. Which, I mean, I guess, but when there's a giant like
Giant
lizard,
dinosaur. Yeah.
you might want to, I don't know, do something about it.
It's an interesting it's funny how people are afraid of like panic because I'm like, there's just like certain things that are just so bad. Like I know you want to like mitigate panic,
Mhm.
but like the destruction that this is going to cause, like without any preparation, like
Yeah.
is going to cause a panic.
And one of the things that I think is funny is like the movie doesn't shy away from the fact that like it's not like Godzilla is like maybe taking down a few ships here or there.
Right.
Like they show a map and they show Godzilla's little trail,
Yeah.
and he just goes to every boat and just fucks it up.
Yep.
And they're like, "No, it's fine."
Yeah. He plays with like cranes, like their chew toys.
He,
Yeah.
he fucking wrecks. But this is where we do get our first actual like big destruction in the city, which is like what people kind of expect from a Godzilla.
Yeah.
It is what you see in all the promotion.
Old Godzilla came hopping around Tokyo.
Like you say, like a big playground.
Playground. Yeah.
Exactly. And I will say this is probably the most. Yes, it's the scariest scene, but I think it's also the most like visually like striking scene.
Yeah.
Like just seeing the people running and then suddenly like giant bricks just to wipe them all away.
And the feet, like they were like boom.
Yeah.
And them scales on those feet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always thought was funny about Godzilla is how bottom heavy he always
He
appears
is
to be.
Squidward with the Krabby Patties.
This is the movie that I think gives that that visual the most.
Yeah, he's not as dummy thick in the legendary one.
No, I think in the legendary ones, he's more proportional.
Like he's always got some thunder thighs, but these are
Mhm.
like this is all. It's back to being derpy. Like this is all. This
Yes.
is all thigh.
And also the fact that like the top, he's just so like static.
Yes.
He's got like the tiniest arms, and he has like no neck.
It's kind of like there's another point where I'm going to bring up the Last Jedi in this trailer, but it's kind of like when people were like happy to see Yoda as a puppet in the Last Jedi. I was like,
He
I
looks
get
like
it.
shit. He
I
can't
get it,
move.
but he kind of looks like shit. And then I see this. I'm like, I wonder if people think if this is like nostalgic for like old Godzilla. And I'm like, but it does kind of like here's the thing. They did like they made that look the best that they could. Like if they were gonna pick a
Yes.
derpy Godzilla, like they made derpy Godzilla shine. But it is still derpy Godzilla.
And the weird thing is, there's a few different scenes in this where you get like a close up on his face, and he looks genuinely scary.
Yeah.
There's a scene after he gets hit in the face with something. I can't remember what it is, and he just looks so fucking mad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that thing is absolutely going to wreck shit. But then there's some scenes where they just show him, like the scenes where he's just like swimming in the water,
Yeah.
and he just looks so goddamn goofy.
Yes.
Uh, and the thing that I wonder about that is there is no man in a suit in this.
Mm,
Like in the past, he looks goofy because it is
it's a
a dude in
man's.
this in a rubber suit, and their suit needs to look weird because he is like this irradiated dinosaur.
That's where you can do hops and like celebrate.
Exactly. Um, and then that's also why you get like the weird proportions in the top of the body.
Yeah.
But then here, this is a purely CG made Godzilla.
Oh.
So why the need for him to look so goofy? And I think it's got to be a nostalgia thing. Like this is how he moved in the original. This is how he looked in the original.
I am glad, even though I keep using the word derpy, I'm kind of glad we had it because like the focus really, even though like it's cool when Godzilla like blows shit up, the focus is not at this like behemoth that blows things up. The focus really is on like the people. And,
Yeah.
like I was, okay. So now I'm going to mention Star Wars for a different reason, which is kind of
I'm here for it.
what I kind of like that what like the recently Dave Filoni verse is doing.
Hmm.
And it's making like the good guys actually like look cool. Whereas like when I was a youth, like I was like Team Empire because I'm like they look fucking cool, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think like if you're gonna cast Godzilla as a villain, I think it helps to like minimize to a limited extent his coolness because like the atomic breath is obviously fucking amazing, but like if he looked too cool, then I think that would just like slightly throw off the balance of like la gente.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need something to differentiate
Yeah.
him from like Hero Godzilla.
Like when the stormtroopers invade the Tantive 4, I'm like, yeah, like your uniforms look great and these people's uniforms look stupid. So like you fucking shoot these people up. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and like I said, this is where we see like he unleashed. I love the guy who's on the rooftop. They're like, Godzilla's fucking great.
Yeah.
He's fucking shit up.
He's like, this is
Oh,
very
shit.
dangerous what I'm doing.
This is so dangerous. I can see him,
Yeah.
and then he dies.
I was wondering about that. So for the fans, the millions of fans who might not be aware, it's reporters who are on the rooftop.
Yeah.
And they're doing like the live news report, like in 1940s style. And I was like, well, if I was in that situation, is the move to really go for it in terms of like telling the story? Because I'm like, your chances of dying are high.
I guess.
So like, I think you do want to maybe get the best narration that you can.
So is this your idea of like, well, you're gonna die anyway, might as well go out on top?
I wonder, but then I'm like, is it better to just GTFO? But then I'm like, but then your chances, even if you GTFO, are like not the best. So I'm like, I think I might, maybe not I might, but I could see how someone would be like, let's fucking go for gold with this reporting. But then did the report even get out? I don't know.
Yeah. My assumption is that was like a live broadcast.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming people at least heard.
It amazes me how people did technology back then.
Yeah. Well, because like I'm assuming if this was in the 50s, people were not actively watching TV, so it had to have been radio. I don't think they were filming.
Right.
Right. I think you
Right.
just had like the little radio thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it also does a really good job at like kind of making it seem like these people really are like kind of amazed by just how
Yeah.
destructive this thing is. Because everybody just like stops and stares at a certain point. Like
Yes.
everybody's running, everybody's freaking out because shit's blowing up and like buildings are coming down.
Yeah.
But when people start seeing that shit glow, everybody just stops.
It's the anti-Stan Lee from Infinity War, where he's like, haven't you kids ever seen a spaceship before? Like, this is like,
this is
brand
nobody
new.
ever seen
Yeah,
a fucking
yeah,
spaceship before.
Yeah.
And it does. So I think in a way, when you mentioned like the rule of threes with using the atomic breath earlier on,
Yeah.
I think it's good because now at this point, Koichi is the only one
Mm-hmm.
who saw this thing, who's around, who's like, this is not good.
Yeah.
I kind of wish he had been a little smarter and been like, no, we need to leave.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like that's why when the blast happens and everybody just like staring
Mm-hmm.
and fucking Noriko's the only one who's got like the brain to be like, no, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like she shoves him out of the way
Yeah.
and she just goes,
Which that's a pretty woke moment. I'm surprised certain people aren't more upset about that.
It's a woke moment that the
Yeah,
woman
the
saved the
woman
man.
saves the man.
Kind of, but it's also like almost anti-woke in the sense that like the woman has to sacrifice herself for the man.
Ah, see, that's where you get the whole woke anti-woke crusade is logicless in and of by itself.
I
So
guess.
yes,
But I think there's a better move here where she like gets both of them out, I think.
yeah,
Cuz or he gets both of them out
right,
because like he knows this is not good.
yeah,
And he's like, let's stare and watch.
yeah,
And he's telling people like this is not good, this is not good. Well then fucking move.
right.
Um so I don't know. I didn't love that. But they come up with their amazing plan.
I love the plan to
The
kill
plan is
Godzilla.
so goofy.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you know how like God, what is that movie where like, this is just crazy enough to work?
Yes, Top Gun.
And technically, yes.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
So before that, the plan is modeled for us in a little like fish tank with a
Which,
wooden
by the way, I
Godzilla.
laughed so hard.
Which here is my question. I had always wondered if Godzilla was so tall that he was always standing on the ocean floor. And then I was like, is he just happened to be like in shallow enough spots where he can stand? The model and then the plan suggests that no, he's been floating this whole time. To which I'm like, is Godzilla treading water? Now, maybe I'm just fat. And I and I know you can tread water to stay afloat, but like that shit takes like that takes energy.
That's why he's so dummy thick in the
I guess
legs.
so. So
He's all leg
I
power.
guess Godzilla's just been treading water the whole time, but then you have to picture like Godzilla's little pitter
Little
pattering
Pete's.
feet. He's just going beep, 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 beep. So the plan is we are going to use tugboats to attach a cable full of Freon canisters around Godzilla.
Not tugboats. Aircraft carriers.
Aircraft carriers, excuse me. We're gonna AT-AT Snowspeeder Godzilla with the Freon.
Yeah, it's true.
The Freon is gonna explode and it's going to use bubbles that will actually sink Godzilla down to the bottom of the floor so fast.
Which is a legitimate experiment. I can remember I had a book when I was a kid. That was one of the experiments. Used a straw, a
Yeah,
bendy straw.
that he's going to get ocean gated. And
That is the plan. 1000%.
I'm like, you know what? People do keep second guessing it, but I'm like, clearly bullets don't work.
No.
You have nothing else
Mhm.
that could work. What like this is it. You got to science it.
Mhm.
So are we jumping to the actual attempt, or are we talking about anything in between? All right, well,
Ready?
so then plan B
Yeah. So plan A is
is
you wrap
Freon.
them up.
Yeah.
You basically like
Send him down.
you send them down,
Yeah.
and the idea is you will ocean gate him because he's going to be falling so fast that even though he's huge,
Yeah.
that quick change in pressure
He's gonna
is going to be enough that it should
kill him.
kill him, right? It'll squish him.
If that doesn't work,
Then they're going to do what?
plan B is to shoot him up with an inflatable CO2 kid's bounce house, effectively.
Effectively.
And then if he can't go down, then he's just going to go up. He's going to go up so fast that he's going to get the bends. And then at least you've got a crippled Godzilla.
It's like I said, it's a plan that's so nuts.
You know what makes it even more nuts for me?
What?
So there's a Greek island called Kalimnos,
Uh-huh.
where it was famous for sponge divers. And these sponge divers would get the bends from their sponge diving.
Okay.
And there's a dance called the Mechanikos, where like you have this guy who's leading the group and he's got a cane and the music's slow and he's like walking like he's crippled because like he's supposed to be playing a sponge diver. But then when the music like speeds up, he remembers his youth and then he starts like dancing and kicks and like doing spins and all this stuff and flipping his cane around. And then I'm like, wouldn't it be hilarious if Godzilla got the bends?
Yeah.
If he could do like a Mechanikos where he's like, I remember my youth, and he's just like, yeah.
It's just for context.
I
so,
really
like,
wanted Plan B to work. I
Yeah.
wanted Plan B to be the plan. And you just have bendy ass Godzilla.
Yeah, it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, for context, their plan is when they sink them down, they're
Yeah.
going at the lowest point nearby, which
Yeah.
is 1,500 like meters deep,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
A lot.
I don't even know how many fucking feet, thousands and thousands of like feet.
Probably around
deep.
4,500 ish. 4,500. A little less than a mile.
Sure.
A little less than a mile.
Um, Godzilla, the biggest Godzilla on record is the one from Godzilla versus Kong,
Mm.
and he is in meters,
Yeah.
119 meters.
Okay.
This Godzilla is nowhere near as tall as that one.
Yeah.
So you have this Godzilla who's probably what, maybe 70 meters.
Well, that's about right.
And you're gonna shoot this thing, and so you're right. He is just little pitter patter
Yeah.
treading feet
Yeah.
because he is not touching the ground here.
No.
He is not touching the ground. And so then when they, I like the visual of him about to like shoot off his atomic breath.
Yeah.
He's going,
Yeah. It freezes. Does it freeze with the Freon attack or with the CO2 attack?
so he doesn't freeze. He like starts bubbling almost.
Yeah.
It's a weird visual. I don't know if it's supposed to be like he's
I
freezing.
think when he comes up though, he's covered in like patches of ice. So whatever that was, like froze.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like this freezing or if it was like the skin was like rotting or
Right.
like getting super hard.
It was cool.
It was cool. So that's plan A and plan B. Plan C.
There's a secret plan C.
There's a secret plan C,
Yeah.
which is kind of part of plan A, which is Koichi is going to use his pilot skills. Which, by the way, at first I was like, what is the point of him being a kamikaze pilot?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, there is something really cool about having a jet
Right.
just flying around Godzilla.
It's a cool plane.
It's a cool plane.
Yeah.
At first it looks a little goofy when it's just from the side because
Yeah.
it's got the propellers in the back.
I always thought it was backwards. Like when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, the front's there," but I was like,
Oh no,
the
yeah,
front's
no, the
there."
front to the back, yeah.
Yeah.
And so having Koichi like flying around Godzilla to like lure him to where they need to go in
Yeah.
case they cannot get him there.
Right.
I thought that was really good because then it uses that tie-in for the character.
Yeah, because Godzilla was like, "Nah, fuck it, let's go to the land."
Yeah,
We have to land
Godzilla
pretty
was here
fast.
for the big game.
Yeah.
And then we have the plan A/C at the same time
Yeah.
is
He's vulnerable on the inside.
he's vulnerable because that is the one time that we see Godzilla take
Yeah.
considerable damage. It didn't stick,
Right.
but it hurt him, and
Yep.
and that made him mad. And so his plan is we're gonna like shock this full of explosives
Yeah.
and just deep throw Godzilla with it.
Yes.
And
Go
it's
boom.
it's not a bad plan.
It's not a bad plan, but that would mean
That would mean
Koichi would die.
he needs to go kamikaze.
Which I said this to you in the theater. And there's many times in this movie where all the characters are like, Koichi, make sure you don't fucking die. Like, make sure you don't sacrifice yourself. Like, don't fucking die. And they're like, people suspect this. Like, is he gonna fucking do something? They're like, he better fucking not. There's a child at home. And I was like, of all the situations where like someone could sacrifice their life.
Yeah, but I think that then goes against the theme of the movie.
Correct.
Because the whole theme of the and they do say it. They
Yes.
are not even on the nose, it's on your face.
Yeah.
They go, no one else is going to die
Yeah.
for this mission. They said, we're making this plan with the full intent of everybody's going to live.
Which
Either
is-
we're all going to live or we're all just going to die.
Which is a beautiful idea because of how it like prioritized the little man.
Yeah.
Like the little man fucking plan, and the little man's like, we are going to like stop the problem, and we're also going to take care of our own.
And that's also the other beautiful part about like the message of this and like this whole plan is
We're
this
gonna
is
have our
not
cake
the
and eat it, too.
government.
Yeah.
They make a point of saying the Americans are not helping us.
Right.
They cannot help us.
Yep.
And the government is
It's cool.
they have been useless. All they've been doing is just sending us to kill ourselves. And so then that's why this message of nobody else is going to die,
Right.
it's harder.
Yeah.
And they do say like, if you don't want to do this, like
You
we're
can-
not going to make it.
yeah.
You can leave. No one is going to judge you.
And more people left than I thought.
Yeah, I thought like maybe one person was going to try to leave, and
Yeah.
then they would
And then
come
people would
back.
be like, no.
People fucking left.
Yeah, people were okay with it.
People were okay with it,
Yeah.
and I think I don't know if I agree with the way the ending happened, that he didn't die,
Hmm.
but I don't know if there was something a little bit more meaningful, because there's a line that Tachibana says where he goes, "Oh," he like thinks it over. He
Yeah.
goes, "This is the safety for the bomb.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you pull this right before impact."
Right.
And I thought that was his way of saying, all right, I know you intend on kamikazing your way in here.
Yeah.
This is the ejector.
Mm.
And I thought that was what he was going to do.
Hmm.
because I think that would have made it almost a little bit more impactful for Koichi, who is willing 100% to sacrifice himself.
Hmm.
And then that last moment realizing, like, oh, I was forgiven
Tachibana.
by Tachibana.
Yeah.
Whereas what actually happens is he tells him, hey, by the way, there's a button here you can push, and you go, "Wee."
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fine. The outcome at the end is still the same. But I think thematically, to me, it kind of goes like, if he had gone in there with this, like, no, I need to sacrifice myself to make up for this because this is the only way I can be redeemed.
Oh, no, I disagree.
You disagree?
I think no. I think
You think going in there knowing he's not going to die
well,
is.
I think the point is that he didn't need to be redeemed, right? He was right to reject his kamikaze rule at first.
He was, but in
Yeah.
his mind, he was like refusing to let himself feel that redemption, right? He felt like he had done wrong.
He felt like he had done wrong, but I think part of this is him realizing that like the redemption here is realizing that he hadn't done anything wrong
Okay.
and that he can have his cake and eat it too, so to speak.
Cake.
Now, here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's my Last Jedi comparison that I've hinted at twice before. Do you know what scene I'm referring to?
No.
Okay. The trolley media, yeah, it's big mad about this scene. It's the scene where the battering ram is on Crate and they're trying to get into the fortress, the First Order. And Finn is in that little like skimmer thing that makes the salt on the planet go whoosh in the red.
Oh,
And then he's gonna kamikaze into the battering ram.
Oh, and
And
Rose
Rose
saves
stops
him.
him. And it's
Mhm.
like whatever the fucking line about like we're not gonna
Like we're not losing anybody else.
to save what we love
basically.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And people get hashtag big mad about that, and they're like,
That's because people are dumb.
Finn should have been allowed to die.
No.
And I think this movie executed it better than Last Jedi did, but it was a I had that scene in mind because I'm like, I think this is what Last Jedi was trying to do. It's like you don't have to. I don't want to say you don't have to sacrifice because people do sacrifice like they sacrifice their safety, but like people don't have to be casualties. Like we can find better ways of solving problems than
Yeah.
what is like tropey. And I think this movie communicated that.
I
very
think
well.
my only that was like my only like point against it necessarily because I do agree that like that is a better like him making that conscious decision early on that he's not going to die is
Yeah.
better. But they have the fake out of them making it very obvious, like he's telling him about the ejection.
Yeah.
Just tell us
Oh, early on.
early on, like tell us, like have us go from the beginning of this knowing like he has a plan.
Well,
Because then to me it makes it seem like the what's it called the safety is
yeah,
actually what's going to eject him.
I see.
So I'm not against him going into this and with us knowing. I just feel like the way it was telegraphed was not effective because when they go, oh, one more thing, we cut to the next scene.
So I think this is where I just wasn't as attentive as you were because I was actually going to this like, oh, is he going to die or is he not going to die? Like I was very curious. I was so curious to the fact I was like, I wonder if they're just going to have like plan A or B work, and then like he won't even have to like fuck with the plane whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I missed that like bad telegraphing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if that could have just been done better, then yes. But yeah.
And that's what I'm saying because like that scene, like this plays very weird because he does. Tachibana looks at him and he kind of like reluctantly almost. It almost looks like he's reluctant to tell him
Yeah.
this is the safety. Which, if it is the safety, then just fucking tell him.
Right.
So to me, it almost made it seem like he was like, should I tell him that this is the ejector,
Yeah.
or should I tell him that this is a safety?
Mm.
And if I tell him it's a safety, then it's a safety.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought it was
Right.
not that it took anything away necessarily. I just like kind of
It's the
playing.
smoke and mirrors of building suspense.
Yes. By the way,
Mhm.
I was kind of expecting a little bit more, not to say more bombasticness from when he goes in Godzilla's mouth.
Oh yeah,
He
it doesn't
just
really.
fucking stops.
Yeah,
He's like, "Yeah."
I agree. I was also kind of surprised. Like, oh, did this also not work?
Yeah, and then it just goes boom.
But it does.
It does. But I also couldn't figure out if that was like a that's just how it was animated, or it was
Yeah.
to show that Godzilla is such a force.
Yeah.
It's just like a fly hitting him in the face.
Yes.
And it's the fact that he's got these bombs inside of him that just goes just
Well, it
the
isn't.
inside.
We started this episode talking about Godzilla's allegory. For this, it's like allegory of violence and atomic bomb,
Hmm.
right? But then there's some interpretations that really say like, no, Godzilla is nature. Like that's what Godzilla is supposed to be. That's what the
Yes.
fucking song says. Which this movie, I would say, doesn't lean into as much. But I think if this movie was on the nature route, at first I think this would have happened much earlier. But then, like, if it was like if Godzilla is nature, then I picture a version of this where like the kamikaze happens, doesn't work whatsoever, and you're just like, yeah,
And I think the whole Godzilla being a force of balance in nature is more of a significantly more modern
I think it has to
take on
come.
it.
It has to come out of the universe where you have a bunch of monsters.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which is, I think, where it did eventually lead.
right.
But originally, in the original concept for the Godzilla movie, and this movie is Godzilla is he is the bomb. He
Yeah,
is the
he
repercussions
is
of
destruction. He is violence.
he is. Yeah,
He is the dragon. Yeah,
you cannot necessarily. I don't want to say you can't tempt him because you can literally guide him,
right.
but like the devastation that he leaves in his wake, like
Yeah,
yeah, it's just gonna fucking happen, whether you
right.
like it or not. And I do like the visual representation of like he's just standing there and people don't know
Hmm.
if this worked. Like it blew up and half of his head is missing.
Yeah.
And it's not until like you see him start to like glow and break apart that people are like, oh, okay,
Shit, that worked.
shit, that worked. And it was also like visually was really cathartic of seeing like everybody like saluting
Yeah,
Koichi for like what he did. Like
yeah.
and that I don't want to say like it like moved me necessarily, but it did feel really good.
It felt very good.
It was like the people coming together, which is like that whole thesis at the end there.
It even felt good when the shenanigans were revealed.
Yes, which
Yeah.
by the way, I wanted to be like, is she alive when when
When she got the
the
letter,
neighbor gets the letter? I was
yeah.
like, gosh,
Like,
it's
what news could this be?
exact.
Yeah,
Like he clearly already told her.
right.
Like
He gave her the money.
he gives her money to take care of the kid,
Right.
and is like, please take care of this kid. Here's his money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he can't be like, here's the telegram. To be like, just kidding, I'll be back.
Yeah. It had to be.
There's nothing else that could have possibly happened. And because they do say like, is this the residence of Mister Blah blah blah? So they were
Mhm.
specifically looking for him.
Right.
So
So it
that
wasn't coming from him.
it was
Well, yeah.
exactly yeah. Um,
I think what helps the ending work is what happens afterwards in the epilogue. Which at first, when I saw it, I was a little mad because I kind of just wanted this movie to be its own. I think this is a movie you can't really make a sequel to, and I don't really want a sequel to this movie.
okay,
Um, but like Godzilla starts to regenerate, and
yeah,
at first I was like, God damn it! But then I was like, no, actually, if Godzilla is like violence, destruction, whatever, and this whole movie is like choose life, right? I think part of understanding that is like, yes, you're gonna choose life, but like destruction is always gonna try to like take it.
and that's
You know,
well, it's also goes along with the theme of the atomic bomb.
yeah.
Like the atomic bomb is
It's
there,
looming. Yeah,
it's there. Yeah, you may have
yeah,
suppressed it. You know, we have an agreement saying we're not going to use it,
right.
but it's always there, and things keep getting developed whether we like to or not,
It's
and
the
that's what that
it's the chain reaction from Oppenheimer.
exactly.
Yeah,
And while I think in Oppenheimer, it's it's a thinking movie, right,
yeah.
and that's fine. I just think this to me felt a little bit more satisfying
With
in
with Godzilla coming back.
yes at
Yeah.
the end where I'm like, yeah, that threat is there. Yes,
Um,
it's gone for now, but it's always going to be there. It's just a matter of time.
I feel the threat looming equally in both.
Okay.
But I think but I think that's testament to this movie. Like this movie did basically kind of like what Oppenheimer did in a
Yeah.
much different way, right?
Yeah. I had a
Yeah.
lot more fun with this.
Than in
And
Oppenheimer.
also, this was not 3 fucking hours long.
I will say, and I think most people disagree with me on this, and I'll own it, and maybe it is a bad opinion. At first, up until the ejector thing happens, I was like, oh, we could have fucking cut the like Tabanichi, like whatever. And then it's revealed that like, oh, you needed him for the it makes him choosing to eject more satisfying.
Yeah.
I did think that the interlude between Ginza, what was the
Hmm.
city, and then the final battle, I did think that just felt like a tad too long. That was my chief complaint
A little
in the
bit.
theater.
I'm trying to remember though. 'Cause, like I'm thinking there really isn't a lot that happens there because it's Noriko dies.
Yeah,
They have the funeral.
he looks for
He
yeah
he looks for what?
he looks for Taba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's after they come up with a plan.
yeah,
So like I feel like once they start getting into like the development of the plan, like it all kind of goes pretty fast.
yeah.
I felt like this went by like very quickly for me. Like it's 2 hours, and I was sitting there going like, "Oh, is it been already 2 hours?"
Mm.
When it gets to the end, I'm like, "Is there something else going to happen afterwards?"
I also thought I was like, I wonder if I'd be feeling this way if I wasn't seeing this on a Tuesday night.
And Tuesday night at 6:45 p.m.
Yeah,
Uh, but I think it's also like a testament to it, like that it's a Godzilla movie, something that's been done multiple
so
times.
many times.
And an insane amount of times. There's so many Godzilla movies.
Was there an American adaptation in between the '90s Godzilla and the Gareth Edwards Godzilla?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I was like, you know how there was that Ninja
There was
Turtles
an
movie?
animated show.
Yeah, no, I was thinking live action. You know how there's that Ninja Turtles movie that was like CGI that came out in like 2008 ish?
2000, yeah,
I
2007.
feel like everybody fucking forgets about that movie. And I was like, was there also a Godzilla movie that was like equally forgettable at that time?
I
I'm
want
like,
to say there was a movie that came out in 2000 called Godzilla 2000.
that was Japanese though,
That
wasn't
was
it?
Japanese, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, like we were saying, like the fact that this movie is out, I don't even want to say it's a remake because, like, the stories are different.
Yeah.
Like the main branch is there, but like with all Godzilla movies, like I wouldn't even consider them necessarily like remakes because they're their own thing.
It's kind of shows you like where Godzilla has etched himself as an archetype because like what's more archetypal than the big dragon from the sea, right? And,
Yeah,
like you could I feel like you could tell the first Godzilla story as many times as you could tell Peter Parker getting his spider bite. Like I
yeah,
feel like they're on that same I feel like they're on that same level.
yeah. The last thing before we move on to like the last section,
Yeah.
like you said, like Noriko does not die. It's kind of a fake out.
Right.
I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Would I have preferred something else? Yeah.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think it works well enough. It makes his non-sacrifice
We are
more worthwhile. My reason for saying that, like, her having not died made more sense in my head was for him to be like, okay, I'm okay with sacrificing myself because I know that Akiko has someone.
mm,
Noriko will be fine.
mm,
But I mean, that's just like a different branch that they could have gone with.
yeah.
It's fine. I don't dislike that. Um, but the last thing that I just want to kind of point out is I'm kind of really tired of people saying like, look at this 15 million budget movie.
Hmm.
Why can't woke Hollywood be as
The same
good?
thing.
And I think there's a lot of people who are just not understanding the difference in like productions in foreign productions
Yeah.
versus American productions.
Yes.
This movie was announced, yes, back in like 2017, 18.
Mm.
And it started
Mhm.
being written, but it got stopped in the writing process during COVID. So it
Mhm.
has not been actively worked on for 4 years. So it's not like they had so much time.
Right.
It started shooting in 2022,
Oh wow.
April 2022,
Mm.
with $15 million. And people just do not understand that Japan has an insane work culture
Right.
where people are paid pennies
Yeah.
and they are working 16, 17, 18-hour days.
And also, as we said, the movie looked very good, but
It looks good
it's
for
not
15 million.
it's not the most visually like. You can tell that it's not Hollywood, and
No, for sure.
I say that as a slight slight. Like this is not an American studio.
Part of me when I was watching the beginning, I was like, oh man, this movie really does take the fact that it's in the 50s, like seriously, the anime looks kind of shitty. Well, it's also probably the fact that
Because
it's built on $15 million.
I was saying, because there's that opening scene of the plane going down the runway. I was
Uh-huh.
like, this looks kind of potato.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's a low budget movie.
Yeah.
And like no one's disagreeing that it's not impressive.
Right.
but also like the circumstances under this is what this is made.
Yes.
Like one of the things that people just don't understand is like a huge chunk of budgets go into like paying actors.
Yeah.
I I have no idea who, and I maybe there are people maybe in Japan who are watching this and go, "Oh fuck, it's like Japanese Iron Man," or I don't know,
I would imagine though an American actor is more expensive.
significantly more
Yeah.
expensive. And, and even if it's like a lower tier, so like let's take the last Godzilla versus Kong movie.
Right.
Like I'm not saying Brian Tyree Henry's super expensive, but he's probably maybe a couple million.
Yeah.
Fucking Millie Bobby Brown is one of the like highest paid young actors right now, so
Yeah.
she's probably about 10, 15 million.
Cheap.
That's not cheap.
Yeah.
Like think of the Hunger Games. Fucking Jennifer Lawrence was getting paid like 15 million. I think it was 15 million per each of the halves of Mockingjay.
Damn.
Damn.
Yeah.
So like that's your budget right there.
Yeah.
Plus the visual budget, plus the fact that you can't crunch these people
Right.
as hard. There's a reason why our low budget movies are like the Blumhouse movies.
Yeah.
Because they don't require people to be working 17-hour days to crunch visual effects for a movie that doesn't have visual effects.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So it's I get it. It is impressive. Yes, I agree with our boy Dan.
Right.
These 250 and $300 million budgets on movies are unsustainable and irresponsible. But at the same time, the answer is not try to make a movie that big for 50 million because it's just logistically not possible here.
Correct.
So that's my soapbox tangent.
Yes. I have a question. You can take as long or as little as you want
Sure.
to answer it. Why do the Republicans like this movie?
Because they don't understand the fucking concept. They're so small brain.
Yeah.
They cannot see past big lister go boom.
Is that really what it
I
is?
think it is because if you think about everything else in this movie, this is an anti-war movie.
Yeah.
It's an anti like
It's a pretty commie movie.
it's an extremely commie movie.
Yeah.
This is the little guy
Exactly.
like saying fuck you to the government.
Yeah.
Which
They seized the means of production. They took the battleships.
they borrowed them.
Yeah.
Uh and like they just don't understand the idea that like politics don't always have to be like big soldier man hoorah.
Right.
It it's
I'll watch a Right Wing Radio essay at some point tonight to understand. But then, like, they're also just so insufferable.
so the other day, and I know we're like
Yeah.
tangenting here. The other day you sent
It's a
me a
tangent
video.
against the Republicans.
Yes,
That's our bread and butter.
you sent me you sent us a picture of
Yeah.
that show coming out with like
Oh, on the
all
Daily
these
Wire.
Republican pundits,
Yeah.
like Daily Wire, and you were like, "Why the fuck?" I was like, "Why the fuck is
Is it
Danny Trejo
real?
there?" I have no idea. I
Yeah.
think so, but then there was a person on there who was like, "This person is too hot to be in this list."
Yeah.
Brett Cooper,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Who is this Brett Cooper?" Well, because I searched her up once, not just on my recommended, and I was like, "Let's check
Yeah.
this chick out." Holy shit, dude!
Is she crazy?
Dude, these people are insane.
What
He's-
what is it with searching one right wing thing and then it like
This is how
infecting your algorithm?
this is how like people get radicalized.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. Like you sent that one picture. I googled who she was once,
Yeah.
and I've had in the last like 2 days,
Yeah.
like 10 videos recommended, and I had to. I watched a little bit. I was like, oh, let's see what this, what she sounds like, what she says, and I had to like manually go into every one of those and hit down so that it would flush that from my algorithm.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's too hot to be that dumb.
What a shame.
What a shame.
What a shame.
What a shame. On that note,
Yes.
all right, friendo. Thank you so much for talking Godzilla with me. We will be back here talking way more Godzilla soon
Yeah.
because I forgot that Godzilla Apple TV show was out.
I haven't seen it.
We just got the trailer
Yeah.
for Godzilla X Kong.
Correct.
That's coming out like in April, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a good time right now to be a Godzilla fan.
It is. And it's a good time to be a holiday movie fan because
Yes.
we got Gremlins coming up.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm so excited. I have a special ordered a sweater.
Beautiful.
I'm so excited. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Please remember to share with your friends.
Yes.
Recommend us.
Yes.
We have 5 stars on Spotify.
Join the league of the millions of fans.
Yes, the millions of fans.
Yeah.
We will be back, like we said, next week. We'll be talking Gremlins. We've got a few other new movies that we've missed, but are coming on Shudder
Yep.
very soon. So we will be reviewing more of those. So thank you so much for joining us. You can follow us at whatever on our Facebook.
Yes.
And subscribe. Until next time, he has been Thano.
He has been Javier.
And this has been the Cine-Scoots podcast.
Bye.
Bye.